What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and welcome to another episode of our First Down Training show. Today, we're going to be talking about 10 tips that all beginner wide receivers need to focus on. We're going to talk about things from what you should be training, why I don't think you should be playing 7-on-7 as a beginner, and many other topics that will help you at the receiver position. Then we're going to get into some current events. We're going to talk about how a girlfriend of an NFL player is complaining about how NFL players have a busy schedule, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, but we'll get into that. And then we're going to be answering 3 of your guys' questions that you guys have left on previous episodes. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. Let's get started. So pretty much we're going to be going over 10 things that I feel all wide receivers, if you're new to the wide receiver position, just starting out, need to focus on. So the first thing is, what should you be training? So this is, I would say, the primary focus of everything that we do with our wide receivers at our camps that we host, at our training sessions, and that would be focus on training your speed, your route running, and your hands. I think those 3 things is what separates really honestly great wide receivers from just average wide receivers, in my opinion. I think you need to have speed to be able to separate. Somebody commented on a video of mine the other day saying oh, you don't need speed to be a good wide receiver. It's well, that's true. I mean, but you can't be running a 6 flat 40 and expect to be successful at the receiver position. You know what I mean? So you need some type of speed. You need to have good routes because you need to be able to separate against man coverage, and you need to be able to have good hands. You could have great speed, great route running, but if you can't finish the play, there's really no spot for you on the field. So just make sure those are the 3 primary focuses, or I guess you could say the 3 pillars of your training in the offseason. We have tons of content on this YouTube channel about that specifically. Now, tip number 2, don't complain about not getting the ball. So these tips are going to be a little bit different than maybe what we're used to on this channel. We talk a lot about the skill sides of things, like route running tips, press releases, catching mechanics, but these are going to be all a little bit different for you guys. And please, I am telling you right now, from a guy that has experience with the quarterback position and the receiver position, complaining about not getting the ball will do you absolutely no good. I'm telling you, if you're going to your quarterback, hey, give me the ball, I'm open. Guys, we all know you're not open every single play. So especially if you're new to a receiver, you see maybe older guys or maybe NFL guys going to their quarterback talking hey, I'm open, you need to give me the ball. Don't do that. Okay, just be a guy hey, run your route correctly and make the most of the opportunities that you get. When the quarterback throws you the ball, if you're open, you separate, you catch the ball, and you can finish the play, he's going to come back to you, and he's going to come back to you when the play calls for it and when he wants to. But you complaining about it does you absolutely no good. I'll give you personal experience. I remember in high school, I had 2 outside receivers, right? One of them was kind of more on the quieter side of things. His name was Zach. And then the other outside receiver, his name was Kanui. And Kanui wasn't as quiet. And Kanui, he was a great receiver. They're both great receivers, and I was very lucky. Both 6'2", 4'6", 4'5", 40-yard dash guys. So I was very lucky. Zach never complained. Not one time. Kanui was always, give me the ball, I'm open, you gotta throw it to me, you gotta throw it to me. Zach probably had double the amount of touchdowns that Kanui had because I just simply didn't want to give him the ball. Now, I'm not saying every quarterback's gonna have that attitude, but I'm gonna give it to the guys who I honestly just feel respect me as a quarterback and respect my decision making. So don't be the dude that complains. That's my best piece of advice to you. Now, tip number 3, you guys, spend extra time with your quarterback. So in that same example, Kanui and Zach, I remember Zach, they both lived fairly close to me. It wasn't one lived closer. It wasn't I was good friends with Zach either. I was actually probably better friends with Kanui and with our slot receivers than I was with Zach. But I knew I could rely on Zach, and I had great chemistry with him because we would spend so much time away from practice together training. We didn't really have a friendly relationship. He was into different things, I was into different things. We both came from different types of backgrounds, but when it was about business, when it was about football, I could always rely on him. Hey, Zach, can you come to my quarterback coach with me today? Yeah, absolutely. And he would come with me, and we would travel 30, 40 minutes away from where we actually lived to go train. And then after practice, we would stay later. On days where we didn't have practice, me and Zach were always working. So we had that chemistry. I knew how he was going to run his routes. I knew when he was going to break. And that's ultimately what got him a lot of receptions and got him the ball more. So tip number 3, guys, build chemistry with your quarterback. Make sure you are spending time away from practice working with him. And again, offer to go to his quarterback coach. You probably won't have to pay any money for that either. I think a lot of receivers, I get so many messages, so many comments from receivers that are how can I improve my hands? How can I get better catching? Whatever. And it's guys, go to a quarterback coach or your quarterback's quarterback coach and offer to just catch. You're going to get hundreds and hundreds of reps just catching for other QBs, and chances are it's free. If he charges you, I think it's ridiculous. But at the same time, just go, guys. I'm telling you, getting those reps in with your QB is only going to help you because we're only as good as our quarterback from a receiver perspective, okay? Now, tip number 4. don't play 7-on-7. So this is a big one. I think a lot of guys, this is, again, remember, this video is for beginner wide receivers. Like if you've been, let's give two specific examples of players, right? So let's say there's a receiver who's been playing receiver since he was like 10 years old. That was his first year, right? Let's say from 10 to 13, he was playing tackle, playing Pop Warner, he's working with a trainer, he got better. Now he's about to enter high school and he maybe wants to join like a 7-on-7 team. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I'm not the biggest 7-on-7 advocate. Those of you that have been watching my stuff for a while know that. But I'm telling you right now, guys, like it's just not, it's not beneficial if you're new. Because what 7-on-7 is live game reps, and you need live game reps, and we're going to talk about that later in this video, how you can get that if you're a beginner. But as a beginner, you have so many, like, you're very green. You don't have any bad habits. So like, let's say there's another kid who just started playing football when he's 14 and he wants to join a 7-on-7 team. I don't recommend it because you're going to be thrown in there. You're going to be looking at coverages. You're going to have to run routes. You're going to be working on catching. And when you're in an actual live game setting, you can't think about the little nuances of the position. You can't think about those muscle memory habits that you try to develop throughout training. So that's why I say beginner wide receivers shouldn't play 7-on-7, because you have to develop your skills first. If let's say I had a son and he wanted to be a wide receiver, and let's say his first year of football is when he was 10. From 10 to 14, all we would do is train and play one season of tackle football. That's it. And maybe honestly wouldn't even put him in tackle football until he was like 12, but that's a different conversation. But all we would do is train, and all we would do is play tackle in the fall. Wouldn't put him in spring football. If he wanted to play another sport or run track, I would obviously let him do that, whatever he wants to do, but we would focus on training, and we'd focus on good habits, good catching habits, route running, press releases, getting the basics down, right? And then when he's 14, about to enter high school, okay, let's put you in a 7-on-7 team and see how it goes, right? And if he gets benefit, he's with a good 7-on-7 program that focuses on developing, that gets him good reps, then yeah, let's keep going with it. But if not, it's going to be a waste of time. Your time is super valuable in the off season. You guys need to understand that. And if you are not using your time wisely, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So I think a lot of dudes have a lot of problems with their game, and then they spend so much time playing 7-on-7 because it's like the cool thing to do. Don't waste your time with 7-on-7 if you need to improve your speed, your catching, your route running, all those things that we mentioned in the beginning of this video. Okay? So now that brings me to tip number 5, gym. You cannot skip the gym as a wide receiver. So I would say in the gym, probably you want to lift 4 times a week. That's what I would say. Now, if you're on the younger side of things, I don't think you should be lifting weights. I think you should be doing a lot of body weight exercises. I think a good time to start actually training in the gym is probably 6th to 7th grade. Now, I say that and I'll discuss what I mean by that. But if you're like 10, 11, 12, 4 times a week where you are doing body weight exercises is probably the best thing that you could do. Separate it into 2 upper body days and 2 lower body days and do some core work every single week. So let's say Monday, Tuesday you work out, take Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday you work out, take Saturday, Sunday off. That's an easy schedule that you can do. And if you're doing just like push-ups, dips, doing core work, doing air squats, doing lunges, all that stuff, and if you're focusing on good form, is going to build a great foundation for you when you get to that 6th, 7th grade year. So now we could actually start lifting some weights. Now, everybody will say that's probably too young to start lifting. I don't think it's too young to start lifting, as long as you're not lifting heavy and lifting improperly. I think the whole like it's going to stunt your growth, I really think that's a myth. I don't think there's any scientific evidence behind that at all. That's just something that they say to scare you into not lifting too early. You don't want to be the dude that gets to high school and is behind. So I would say get in the gym, do some body weight exercises 4 times a week. Now when you're in the gym, if you're new, 6th, 7th grade, you need to focus on form. So let's say we're doing a barbell back squat, right? So like, don't put any weight on the bar. I never said you have to lift a ton of weight, just do the bar. And when you squat, focus on having perfect form. My shins don't move. My knees don't go past my toes. I'm keeping my chest up. I'm sitting down, going back up. Let's say you're doing bench press, for example. Don't do any weight, just focus on going up and focus on controlling the weight down, have it lightly hit your chest. Just focus on building good habits. So now when you're in 8th, 9th grade, maybe we could start putting some weight on there. You have a good foundation. Now, what I will say about lifting in the gym though, I just gave you 2 examples of a squat and then bench. I'm not the biggest fan of like bench press, curls, like bodybuilding type exercises for receivers because we play a very explosive position. So I think everything, especially when you get to high school, needs to be tailored towards the explosive side of things. Now, I will say this. if you're a receiver, because generally receivers are on the thinner side of things, and you need to gain weight, you got to kind of lift like a bodybuilder. That's just the way it was. That's how I had to lift. I couldn't just only do Olympic lifts, like the power cleans, the push jerk, the box jumps. If I only did that, I'd be 140 pounds. Yeah, I'd be real explosive and fast, but like I wouldn't have any size. So I kind of had to combine both. I would say make sure you don't neglect those when you get to the high school level, because there's two types of muscle fibers that every athlete has. You have fast twitch fibers and slow twitch fibers. Slow twitch muscle fibers are more prevalent, I would say, in like the big jacked out bodybuilder guy. They're like kind of like they're not moving explosively, right? They're not moving with a fast twitch. Football players, receivers, we need a fast twitch. You ever see a dude like off the line, you're just like, God, that guy's twitchy. He has more fast twitch muscle fibers in his body than the next guy. How you develop and increase your fast twitch muscle fiber count is doing exercises that exert all out effort. So like if you're doing a box jump and you're exerting all the effort that you have to jump as high as possible and you rep that out, that's going to increase the fast twitch muscle fiber count in your body, which will make you a more explosive athlete, and that's obviously important for wide receivers. So that's why I say that. Now, lifting 4 times a week, like I said, it depends on your age, what you're doing, but that's generally the foundation that you want to focus on. Okay, now brings me to point number 6, speed training. You should be working out for your speed, because remember, we mentioned this in the beginning of the video. What do receivers need to work on, especially beginners? Speed, route running, and hands. So I would say speed work 2 to 3 times a week. What is speed work? What qualifies as speed work? So I would say number 1, probably training with resistance. I think that's super beneficial no matter how old you are. If you're a beginner at age 10, you're a beginner at age 15, I would say at least twice a week, you should be training with some type of resistance. I know me personally, the speed routine that I had when I was in high school was I would do resistance training on Tuesday, Thursday, and then on Sundays, I would do more so like running form, running mechanics training to make sure I'm tightened up. Because how you're going to get faster as an athlete is doing those explosive movements that I mentioned previously in this video, or like 10 seconds ago, those explosive movements in the gym to increase the fast twitch muscle fiber count, training with resistance, so running with a sled, running uphill, running up stadium stairs, and then your running form. So many athletes don't know how to run. And if you don't know how to run, all the resistance training in the world is great, but if you don't know how to use it, you're still going to not have as good of athleticism or not as good as speed as you should. So I would say 2 to 3 times a week, guys. Go to a local high school, run up the stairs, like in the bleachers, right? I call it running bleachers. I used to run bleachers twice a week, and then I would go run at this open field working on my form and doing different running type drills on Sundays. And I felt that was a good schedule for me. I felt like that really helped me get fast. And one thing I will say, stretching. Not enough young receivers stretch. I remember that I was stuck at a 4.8, 4.9 40 for years, and I would do all the speed training in the world. And I had a coach tell me one time, and this coach was a credible dude. His name's Maurice Green, if you want to look him up, but he was a guy that I was lucky enough to train with maybe 2 or 3 times when I was a player, and he was an Olympic gold medalist in the 100 meters. So like at one point, the fastest person on the earth, right? And he told me, he was like, hey, how often do you stretch? I'm like, I don't. And he's like, you should stretch every single night after you work out, or after every single workout. You don't want to stretch a cold muscle. That's a way to hurt yourself, so don't do it in the morning. After a workout though, and you get blood flow to your body and you stretch and you focus on stretching your hips, your hamstrings, your glutes, it starts to help you open up your stride and really run. And that flexibility, that mobility does help with speed. So I recommend doing that as well as speed training 2 to 3 times a week. Now, point number 7, you guys, route running training 4 times a week. So notice how I said gym 4 times, speed 2 to 3, and then routes 4 times. So obviously there's not 10 days in a week. So you're gonna have to double up on some days. And honestly, there's a lot of information out there about like overtraining. Like a lot of trainers and coaches will say like, oh, you don't want to overtrain, your body's never gonna recover, you're not gonna grow. And that's, I don't disagree with that in some sense. But when you get to college, man, bro, I'm telling you, it's weights, it's classes all day, then it's workout after classes all day, and it's like, and then you got to repeat the process, and they don't care about overtraining. Like, granted, they do take care of their bodies and they recover properly, which I will say is important for you to do no matter what age you're at. So like I said, stretching, maybe you guys start doing a cold plunge or an ice bath, invest in a massage gun to get out all the soreness and that like lactic buildup in you. So that and route training 4 times a week is what I think you need to do. And route running training doesn't need to be 2 hours at the field. It could be 30 to 45 minutes. Like, I think a lot of people mistake it. Like, I see it all over social media. Like, guys will post like, oh, working out, we're at the field today, yada, yada. And I was in high school, guys, in college, and I understand that. And everybody posted on their Snapchat stories. Like, I get it. But most of the time, those people working out are not doing it efficiently. They're there for 2 hours and they're goofing off. They're worried about the freaking speaker and what song they're playing. And they're worried about posting and recording themselves. And then they're talking to people on the side, like talking to girls, whatever it is. That's not training. If you're at the field and you do a 30 to 40 minute efficient route running workout where you're working on different things, press releases, route running, top of the route, like that's going to be better off than the 2-hour session where you're just goofing off the whole time. Doing that 4 times a week, I really do not think would be difficult to do. And I really think it will benefit your game, especially if you're a beginner. Because as a beginner, you need reps. And a lot of times it's repping the boring stuff. A lot of athletes don't have what it takes to play at the next level because they don't love the boring stuff. Like, I started taking like Muay Thai recently, like kickboxing, and like I've learned just about every punch, kick that you can do. And when I watch like guys actually fight, like in a real fight setting, like I'm not training to be a fighter obviously, but I watch them and they're doing the same things I'm doing. But they obviously are a lot faster, a lot cleaner, and they're knocking dudes out. I'm like, wait, so you're telling me that it's the same thing, but they just rep it out over and over again. They love the boring stuff. That's a lot like the QB and wide receiver position, guys. It's doing the boring stuff over and over again, working on your stick, working on your snap down. How many reps of that can you get in? And you need to be consistent, and that's why I say 4 times a week you should be training that, okay? So now that brings me to point number 8, understanding coverages. I think you guys are beginners watching this, and I think once you get to the next level, like I'm talking the collegiate level, if you ever get the chance to look at a college playbook or an NFL playbook, look at the route combos on there. It is no longer 5-yard out fade. It's 5-yard out, you could turn it into a slant, you could turn it into a sit down, you could run a fade, you could turn it into a comeback, you could break on a dig. There are so many variations of different routes, and receivers have to understand the coverage to be able to run those variations of those routes. Everything generally is like an option route, and you will learn that as you get older. So if you have a primary understanding of coverages, and you know what cover 2 is, what cover 4, what cover 3, and you guys can just like kind of, you know, like be able to diagnose that pre-snap, and there's tons of information we have on our YouTube channel, on our website, firstdowntraining.com, that will help you with that. So understanding coverages is something that you need to be able to do as a receiver to run efficient routes and to put all your training into action, okay? Now, let's get to point number 9, live reps with DBs. So I know this is like kind of falls into the category of 7-on-7, right? So everybody said, like, or at least I said, that don't play 7-on-7. If you're a beginner receiver, I don't think you should play 7-on-7. And now I'm saying to get live reps with DBs. I mean in like one-on-ones. I don't mean 7-on-7. I think 7-on-7 can be a waste of time. I would try to find a friend of yours that maybe also plays receiver and plays DB, and you guys rep one-on-ones against each other, because there's nothing better than live competition. You eventually have to do live competition. I just think guys do it too soon. Like if I had to make like a perfect offense or like a perfect off-season schedule for guys, right? So let's talk about this. I would say, let's say your football season ends in November. Let's say you take Thanksgiving off, and then December 1st is when you want to start training again. From December to probably May, I would just train. From May to July, I would train, but I'd also incorporate live reps. So if you want to play 7-on-7, fine. But I recommend getting a DB and you guys work one-on-ones against each other. And just getting familiar with different looks, being able to apply the work that you've put in for the last 5 to 6 months. So when it comes time for August, when you're actually in a real game setting, a live environment, you've seen those things, and you could actually apply what you have been working on. But that's all I'm going to say. I mean, I just think live reps with DB is important. It's just guys do it way too soon. Now, that brings me to point number 10, training with pads on. So if you're a beginner wide receiver, some of you guys may not have played tackle football yet. Some of you guys might be career flag football guys, and that's totally fine. I was one of those dudes that didn't play tackle until my freshman year of high school. You need to train with pads on. I've seen it happen so many freaking times where there will be receivers who are just legit t-shirt and short guys. Put the pads on, All of a sudden they're running a little slower. All of a sudden they're not selling their cuts as well. All of a sudden they're not dropping into their brakes as well. Their routes look a little lazy because they're not used to the pads. Don't make August 1st the first day that you put pads on. I want you to be training with pads from probably March, April, all the way until August 1st to get you comfortable with it. I know it's hot. I know where a lot of you guys live, it probably gets extremely hot and humid. It's uncomfortable. And you don't ever want to wear that helmet and that pads until you absolutely have to. But I'm telling you right now, training with that stuff on will make you a 10 times better wide receiver, and you'll be way more comfortable, especially if it's your first season of tackle coming up. So I hope that makes sense. So guys, that's it for our 10 tips. Now we're going to be getting into some current events, and then we're going to be answering some of your guys' questions. But before we do that, guys, if you are a wide receiver or even a quarterback watching this video, we are going to be hosting a series of camps all over the country this spring and summer. We've already gone to, I want to say, 6 different states this winter and early spring for our training camps, but now we're going to be coming out to 8 different states across the entire U.S. Our next camp is going to be in Chicago, Illinois. Then after that, we'll be coming out to Newark, New Jersey, Birmingham, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts, Columbus, Ohio, Boise, Idaho, and finishing off our camp tour this year in Los Angeles, California. So guys, if you want to sign up, all of our camps are almost completely full and completely sold out. We have anywhere from like about 3 to 5 spots left in all of those camps that we just listed. So guys, we'd love to have you there. If you want to sign up, go to that very first link in the description below. Again, guys, very first link in that description below so you can get all the information. That's where you can easily sign up and make sure you take advantage while we have spots available. Again, all these spots will fill up. So very first link in that description below, guys. We'd love to have you there. Okay, so now let's get into some current events, all right? So current event number 1, this is the one I mentioned earlier. NFL WAG, so that's like wives and girlfriends, for those of you that don't know, says she's alone every single weekend as she breaks down worst parts of the job. Diana Wong is married to NFL punter Corey Bojorquez of the Cleveland Browns. All right. I got a couple opinions on this one. Number 1, like, it's okay. I just don't think you have grounds to complain. That's just me because you guys are insanely rich. When you think about how much, an NFL punter too, he's probably one of the lowest paid guys on the roster. What's the league minimum? I don't even know what the league minimum salary is, but it's got to be mid 6 figures, maybe like 400,000, 500,000. And you're not in California, you're not in New York, so you're not paying 50% tax. You probably live in Ohio, which is not heavily taxed either. But anyways, you guys have to, like, you don't understand how well off you guys have it, because they probably, it's just like, compare yourself to somebody else who lives in like middle of nowhere Ohio that's pulling in like $30,000-$40,000 a year, barely scraping by, and they're working 9 to 5 every single freaking day just to put food on the table, and you have ground, and you think you can sit there and complain like, oh, my husband's gone on weekends. It's like, you see him 5 days out of the week. He's gone Friday through Sunday, then he comes back Monday, and then you get to spend time with him. It's like, and then she goes on to say how like, oh, I spend holidays alone because they have games on holidays. It's like, 1, that's what you signed up for. 2, do you want to have a nice house? Do you want to have nice things, or do you want to just, date somebody who works at, like McDonald's and can spend time with you after 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and have the weekends off? Like, and I'm not hating on that either, because some people have to make a living and some people have to make ends meet, and that's great. But I just don't think you have any grounds to complain. I think we should stop listening to people like this because it's ridiculous. They live in their own they live in a fantasy land. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't understand how much effort goes into playing in the NFL, number 1, and they don't have that busy of a schedule. How many weeks out of the year is it? Like, you got training camp, okay, and then you got 16 weeks. And then there's probably, and then let's say maybe some other week. Let's say you make the play, let's say you go to the Super Bowl. What is that, 20 weeks out of the year plus training camp? So let's say it's 24 weeks out of the year. Then you have half the year to do literally whatever you want, because he made a truckload of money for those 24 weeks, and you guys could go on trips, and you guys could do this, and you could do that, because you have the luxury of money. So I just hate stuff like that, you guys. Like, it's like celebrities complaining who are like worth like $100 million. It's like, what do you have to complain about? Like seriously, like, I just can't relate. Like, I literally just can't relate. And so also, I think another thing that's important to say is like, how about you support the dude? Like, instead of complaining about it, like, maybe she is supported behind closed doors. I don't know. But like, I know for me, from like a business perspective, I'm constantly working. I'm Monday through Sunday. I'm working 12, 15 hours every single day because I love what I do. And I'm sure that guy probably loves what he does too, because he gets to play a game for a living. Like, I would absolutely hate it if my wife was talking to people saying like, hey, yeah, I hate it. I'm always alone, yada, yada. It's like, I'd be like, do you want nice things? Like, do you want, like, I just don't understand. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's just my take on it. I'd love to hear what you guys think, but I think it's ridiculous. I don't think anybody should be complaining when your husband is almost a millionaire, but, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. All right, next story, you guys. 2025 NFL free agency signing. Texans DB Derek Stingley Jr., he's a friend of the program, agrees to a 3-year, $90 million extension. So, Derek Stingley started following me, like, I want to say, like, 2021, and I DM'd him and I was like, hey man, thanks for the follow, like, you know, like love the way you play. And he's like, yeah, I watch your stuff to get kind of like the insight of how the receiver thinks, you know, like, so like how, like, okay, this is what the receiver's thinking, so I'm going to do this. And so it's pretty cool to see him sign that type of deal. I think that's awesome. I think he's one of the probably the most deserving DB in the NFL, in my opinion. I think he had a great year, and obviously he's a friend of the program, so we have to give him his props there. But one thing I will say, whoever his agent is I think pretty legit. So like I own like a supplement company with my brother, and we have like a line of protein powder and pre-workout and stuff like that. And we looked into sponsoring him when he was coming out of the draft, and they wanted, what was it? I think it was $40,000 a month just for them to like post like 3 or 4 times a month. And that's insane. But he's sponsored by a lot of, I think he's sponsored by, I want to say at one time he was sponsored by Canes, and then he's sponsored by, gosh, I forget the name of the other thing. So he's got a couple different sponsors. If that's what he's pulling in just off of sponsorships, and that's his contract, the dude's going to be set up for the rest of his life. Because like that's what they'll say in the league. They say you spend the endorsement money, and then the game checks you put in the bank. So hopefully he's, it looks like he's got a good team around him, and I'm very happy for Derek, super pumped for him, okay? All right, so guys, let's get into some questions now, okay? So these are questions that you guys left on a previous video of mine, or like a previous episode of mine, so I appreciate all the support. Seriously, you guys tuning in really means a lot to me, especially for our longer form videos like this. We really enjoy it, and we feel like this is a way for us to maybe connect with you guys a little bit more and a little bit better. And so if you guys got questions, stuff that we want to be featured on the show, guys, don't hesitate. Post them in the comment section below. I literally read and answer and respond to every single comment. Literally every single comment that's positive. But yeah, guys, if you want to be featured on our next episode, post your questions in the comment section below. I'll answer as many of those as we can, okay? So now, first question from XJBDNSNZJ, I'm not going to read the rest of that, 8784. Hey, Coach, I have a question. How do guys like Bobby Slowick, Declan Doyle, Ben Johnson get NFL jobs at such a young age, and there's others who have to spend years at the bottom to the top just for a chance at that job? Is it because they're just that brilliant? How do they skip the whole process? Great question. So we made a video last week about like kind of just like the problem with high school football, and like how coaches don't really have an incentive, like they're not paid a lot. And it's such a long process to move from a high school coaching job all the way up to an NFL job. So generally those like younger dudes that are getting those coaching jobs, like, you know, like a Mike McDaniel, for example, where they start out as a graduate assistant. So they'll be like, so a graduate assistant, or a GA as some people call it, is like a dude who's in college, and he could have gotten recruited to play football, or he just is a regular student and decided to do this. But they are essentially like a non-paid coach. They're like an intern, and they are still enrolled at the school. So they're like 19, 20 years old, but they're coaching football. They'd be like an assistant wide receiver coach, but his job is just to like set up the cones. He's not making any major decisions. He's not making any major coaching points, but he's a GA. And so from that GA position, let's say he's a GA at like University of Michigan, and then he goes and applies for a receiver coach job at another D1 school, gets that job because of a reference or because of like a referral, because obviously coaching is a very small world and everybody knows everybody. He performs well there, then he goes up to a coordinator position, and then he could ultimately get a job in the NFL if he does well in that coordinator position. So you see a lot of these young guys that are in their like 30s getting head coaching jobs. They didn't necessarily bypass the process of it all. It's just easier for them because they already had their foot in the door as a graduate assistant. They weren't like the traditional high school coach, moved his way up to JUCO, moved his way up to college. So it's a different process for them because they were a graduate assistant. So for any of you young guys that want to get into coaching, that's definitely an option for you, especially if you want to end up coaching in the league. You just have to perform. It's all about performance. So appreciate you asking that, man. I hope that was able to help. All right, next question from Joseph Heiler, 09B. Hey coach, I'm a freshman in high school right now. I play quarterback and safety for my high school flag football team. Can also play wide receiver. I've been playing flag for about 6 to 7 years. Football is a big part of my life, and I've been considering switching schools for my remaining years to join a D2 tackle football team. 6'1", 160, just for like more info, what's your thoughts about what I should do? And if you see this, could you make a YouTube video about the transition from flag football to tackle? It'll help me a lot. Yeah, absolutely, man. We kind of talked about flag football to tackle in this video, but Joseph, what I would say is to go for it. I think if you're serious about playing football, you have to play tackle eventually. I mean, I don't know of, this is just me, I don't know of any men's flag football teams that like give out scholarships in college. That's just me. Like they have intramural flag, I would assume. I think women's flag is starting to get some scholarship money thrown around, but not a ton. If you're serious about playing football as a guy, you have to play tackle at some point. Okay, I'm just gonna be real with you. So I would recommend transferring. I definitely don't think your size is a problem. 6'1", 160. I mean, you're probably a little bit light on the skinnier side of things, but that'd be good for a receiver, would be good for a DB. Did you say you played quarterback? Yeah, that's also good for a quarterback as well. You're a little thin for a safety, but like DB, receiver, quarterback, so I think that would be great for you to ultimately do. So I hope that helps, man. Appreciate you asking. All right, next question from FWF2524. Who's your favorite NFL quarterback of all time? Great question. I'm gonna go with Tom Brady. I know it's an easy answer. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, like the bandwagon type answer because he is the greatest of all time. But I just can appreciate greatness. Like I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. I'm a huge, like, you know, Floyd Mayweather fan. I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. Like I just love greatness. I love the attitude that they have. I love the obsessiveness that those guys have. And I feel like those are traits that I consistently try to apply in my daily life. So that's why I would say Tom Brady, and obviously he's just a winner. Great. And also what I like about Tom Brady is that he's a great teammate. Like obviously the skills on the field, there's you know, obviously proof's in the pudding there. But I love that he's a great teammate. He's never seemed like a guy that's like too big or too good to be with his teammates. He's more of just like a locker room dude, and then that's what a lot of his teammates will also say about him. So I love Tom Brady. That's probably why he's my favorite player of all time, favorite quarterback of all time, I should say. But all right, guys, fellas, appreciate everybody tuning in. That's it for our episode today. But we're back live tomorrow with same type of episode, going over some different topics. But again, guys, if you have questions, post them in the comment section below to be featured on another episode, and I'll see y'all next time.